c'est-à-dire en face de votre nom. Mr. David Oakes, you can just a little bit farther in front of your name. Thank you. Voilà, donc le Q&A va commencer. Alors, on a une surprise pour vous ce soir, c'était pas prévu. David Oakes est avec nous. Donc, le Q&A se fera dans les deux langues. Xavier Jans parlant tout à fait bien français. Monsieur Oakes, je ne suis pas certaine. Dus, we hebben verrassing voor jullie vanavond. We hebben David Oakes met ons. Hij spreekt niet zoveel Frans, dus de Q&A zal in het Engels en in het Frans doorgaan. Donc, bonsoir à Monsieur Xavier Jans, que vous connaissez déjà pour des films comme Crucifixion ou The Divide ou Hitman, et alors David Oakes, qui était déjà venu en 2012 ou 2013 pour Truth or Dare, et qu'on peut voir plus récemment dans une série comme Victoria. Alors, thank you for being with us tonight, Mr. Oakes. Merci d'être ici, Monsieur Xavier Jans. Et on va commencer le Q&A. Et la question que je me pose, bien sûr, c'est waouh, comment ça se fait qu'on a mis autant de temps à vous revoir sur grand écran avec un film comme celui-là?
En fait, j'ai mis beaucoup de temps parce que après The Divide, j'ai voulu vraiment choisir le film que j'avais envie de faire, et ça a pris presque 10 ans pour pouvoir voir le jour, hein, parce que c'était un film très compliqué à mettre en place. En fait, quand on le voit comme ça a l'air très simple parce qu'on est à 3 personnages sur une île, mais en fait, il fallait trouver cette île, il fallait écrire un script adapté au budget qu'on pouvait lever pour faire ce film-là. Et en fait, on a basiquement fait 3 voire 4 fois la formule pour que le film fonctionne. Et à chaque fois que vous faites une formule et que vous partez en financement, ça vous prend une année. Et donc, sur une année, on n'avait pas la bonne formule, donc on a essayé une autre, puis une autre, puis une autre, puis ça a pris vraiment du temps. Il y a eu le temps de développement, le temps de financement et la post-production qui est énorme sur le film, parce qu'il n'y a pas un plan qui n'est pas truqué. Tout était... parce que rien n'était au même endroit, beaucoup de personnages n'étaient pas là. Le personnage de Anéris est retouché à la fois en maquillage et en effet numérique, donc il y a vraiment beaucoup de boulot sur le film. Et entre-temps, j'ai fait un peu de série télé aussi, parce que je voulais pas forcément partir faire le film que j'avais pas envie de faire. Donc voilà, ça prend son temps, mais au moins je sais pas si ça marche. Ouais, ça marche.
Parlez bien. Alors,
ouais. Faut bien parler comme ça.
Faut bien parler devant le micro, oui.
En fait, au départ, j'ai lu le livre comme n'importe quel lecteur, et j'ai adoré l'histoire, mais je voulais savoir si c'était quand.
David, if I'm not mistaken, you auditioned for Crucifixion, actually.
Yeah.
And he contacted you for Coolskin after that Crucifixion was done in Romania, I think, so needed someone else maybe. So how did it work to get it in?
It's that weird thing where all the stars aligned, I think, in the right direction. I think it's very rare that...
Stop. Just really...
I think it's very rare that a film gets its first cast. I think it's sometimes fortuitous that it doesn't. Whether it's Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones or whoever, the machinations that come into getting to that first day of production are vast. I mean, this was 15 years before they turned over from getting the rights for starting filming. And I don't think this film would have worked quite so well with a 17-year-old version of me playing the lead. So it's... Yeah, so Zav saw me do a tape for The Crucifixion, which I then ended up not doing for a number of reasons, mostly because I wasn't Romanian and my accent was probably a little bit racist. Then about 8 months later, I guess, I got a phone call saying, would you like to come to Lanzarote and be attacked by frog monsters? I'm not referring to the French director.
Maybe a question for both of us, but in English, because like this, Mr. Oakes can understand. When you play in Truth or Dare, you're a real psychopath. I remember you.
Thank you.
The real psychopath on screen, and then I meet you during the Q&A. You were a very nice man. And then you have on Victoria a role among the royal family of Belgium, and you are this tender guy, shy guy, trying to find love. And here you are the guy that is human, stays human. So I would like to know, how did you know Mr. Oakes, his work as an actor, and what did you like in the script of Mr. Jans?
First, I will say a lot of things about David. But first, when you meet David, you feel something very, very human first. He got that very sweet sensitivity, and when I was meeting with him, but first when I saw the tape, the casting director is doing something very interesting. Not only the scene and the lines, but he's asking for a presentation and just a simple discussion between him and the actor. And what I love through David when I see the tape was really the simplicity and his strong human soul. And that, for me, was the key element for the character of Friend. And then when we met, my feeling was right, because he is that true human being. He had the fantastic artistic soul, because he's doing a lot of drawings. He came with a lot of ideas about John Keats. You see, I say very nasty things. And he's handsome.
Yeah, I remember getting sent the script and having a read of it and going, not that I'm averse to doing a genre film about being attacked by frog monsters, but I remember reading the synopsis and going, well, that's just really fucking stupid. And then I read the script and I went, that's odd. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was weird. I didn't think it was cheap. It's a story about existence of but three different kinds of things across a couple of species, and I was intrigued. We then spoke over the internet, over Skype. I had a moustache at the time. That's how I remember it was the past.
It was like a Freddie Mercury. So he was very serious with a very beautiful moustache of 19th century.
But that's his character in
Exactly.
Victoria.
So I was filming Victoria, and so we spoke, and Xav didn't let me say anything as soon as the phone call started, and he said, before you say anything, that was my impression of you. He said, I just want you to know that this is about one man who represents Rousseau, one man who represents Nietzsche. They're stuck on an island and they're attacked by frog monsters. And I was basically sold from then. I mean, I played hard to get and got my wage pushed up, but basically, he had me at hello.
It's all in the moustache.
One of the things I really liked in the movie is that both characters, yours and Ray Stevenson's, none of them is an hero. Actually, they're both anti-hero. Yours is quite a coward, actually. At least at the beginning. How is it to be involved in a movie like that, where you're not the typical hero? And how did you think about it, the writing process?
I think that's the great thing about the script, is it defies conventional narrative. It's a little bit longer than a normal film would be. There is no obvious hero at any one point. You have to... I mean, there's very little dialogue as well. You have to hopefully get drawn into one, two, or three of the characters and want to find their journey, and Xav masterfully sort of takes you from focusing on Friend to then drawing you across to Ray in that lovely scene where the sun sets and then rises again as he falls asleep, leaving Friend outside. And then you get to know this monster who starts off as a sort of feline alien and then becomes a woman and then becomes Mother Nature herself, if you will. And I think that's what's so charming about the piece, is that it is weird, it is not normal, it is very rare that a film like this ever really gets made, and I think it's kind of fun showing it somewhere like Biff. I was just saying to Xav, to take this film to a genre festival where certain expectations of full moons and vampires and werewolves are expected, which is great, which is why we're both back for a third and a second time. But it is that thing where you go, this isn't going to take you on the conventional journey, it's more normal, despite the fact that there's a tribe of frog monsters who are trying to kill you and eat you. It's like everyday life.
Wasn't it a little bit scary for you? Because it's a kind of huis clos on an island. You're stranded with another actor, in a way, and just a creature. So it's a huis clos, and the film must be supported by the actors. So were you not scared about that?
I don't think it's fear. I think it was all three of the actors and the key creative cast crew all knew that they had to fully commit from the very beginning, and that if everybody did that, then the whole thing would adhere. I think that's what happened. There were certain bonding exercises that Ray and I did in the first week, very much like going to the bar and drinking a lot of Troll. And Aura as well. Everyone had this sort of inauguration. It was... often in a film you start to take on characteristics of the person that you're playing, and I think we all started to inhabit it a little bit, some more than others. But yeah, no, it wasn't scary. It was so intense. Like, we spent nine weeks shooting constantly, 6-day weeks, and you just kind of got on with it, much like they put up with the onslaught of creatures attacking them. We put up with the onslaught of our production schedule, and the exhaustion that you see on mine and Ray's faces is sometimes quite genuine.
Est-ce que vous avez tourné ça chronologiquement? Did you shoot that chronologically to have the appearance of the actor at the end?
We did the film basically 2 times. We did the first time all the outside in continuity, all the exterior shot in continuity, but David sometimes has to add 3 stages of beard during the day, so he was like, okay, David, you're stage 5. So he had very long beard. Run back to makeup. But we had the base camp into a lava field, so it was very beautiful to shoot there, but very complicated to access. And we shoot a scene. He go back to makeup, probably 1 hour and a half, 2 hours. He came back, a new beard. Okay, great. So let's go a step further, and it was that almost every day. So we had the chance to shoot in continuity for all the exterior, and then when we arrived to Madrid, we shoot all the interior of the cottage and the lighthouse in Madrid for 4 weeks and a half, more or less. So it was really great, and I think the one who had most makeup was Aura Garrido, and when she's fully naked, she had 8 hours of makeup, so she was up at 2 or 3 in the morning. And time to get ready, it was 10, 11, and then she had to shoot with us. But she had a day off in between days.
Oui, c'est effectivement assez long.
How's the shooting in Lanzarote? It's one of the Canary Islands, but which is really, really different than the others because it's only a volcanic island. So it gives this very specific charm to the movie. How did you find it? Because I think it was the most challenging thing you had to do. One of the most challenging things you had to do on this movie.
Originally, I think you were going to shoot it in Iceland, weren't you? But it was deemed that it would be easier for the crew to be in shorts and t-shirt and for the actors to be in 3 layers of fur and wool and stuff in 40 degrees heat than it was the alternate, which would be everybody just covered in, well, the frog monsters wearing nothing but in -20. Yeah, I think Lanzarote, if it's a 3-cast film, but I think Lanzarote itself lent itself as a 4th cast member. The lava fields are amazing. They're a pain in the ass to walk across or run across. But miraculously, no one really hurt themselves. Like,
we had no accident at all, just sunburns.
Yeah, I mean, like, normally on a shoot, someone falls over and hurts themselves a bit, but like, I think we were really lucky. Yeah, but I mean, it was amazing. The fact that they let it... It's a national park where we're filming the lava field. Exactly. And it was beautiful. I loved it. I mean, we were all staying in the same resort as well, so the cast and crew would all just go back together, have a few drinks, pass out, get up at 6 o'clock in the morning there for sunrise, hearing the constancy of the waves coming in, which the sound design, I think, does beautifully. You have that constant rumble. But that's what we had for the 5 weeks that we were in Lanzarote. It was wonderful. It wasn't a holiday, but it was beautiful.
On a day off, as we were on a night, Ray Stevenson had a house in Lanzarote, and the thing is, he offered to the crew to stay in the rhythm of the night, so he organized Groner's party every weekend. So we have only 1 day, so we can go to his home, eat a lot, drink a lot, and sometimes he was there until 5 or 6 in the morning, and the crew too. And they came back in the morning after, and everybody were very tired.
Ray, I think I'm just not bad to say, he lives in Ibiza most of the time, and I think it's fair to say that he brought a lot of the spirit of Ibiza with him to that calm, quiet, pleasant national park side of Lanzarote.
When the police has to come to stop him.
Est-ce qu'il y a des questions dans la salle? Zijn vragen in het publiek? C'est le moment, c'est l'instant. Voilà, il y a quelqu'un là-bas, le micro.
Hello. Was it important for you that the movie took place right before the beginning of the First World War? And Mr. Oakes, did that inform the performance in any way?
So the thing is, for me, it was important to set up the film before the First World, because first the thematic of the film is about war and human beings escaping, trying to avoid that war, but as they are human beings, they keep bringing that violence everywhere they go. So basically, they keep repeating what's happening in Europe, and it's also, as it's adapted from a novel. In the novel, it's like this. And for Albert Sanchez-Piñol, all the movie was a metaphor story of the Spanish invasion in South America. So basically, you can compare the toads as the Indians in South America when Cortés arrived. So for him, it was his approach and also the Darwin aspect of the story, because Albert is an anthropologist first, so he was desperate when he started working because Darwin has found the theory of evolution. So with that book, he wrote his own theory of evolution.
Yeah, it was important that he was running away from the First World War. I think it was that in the novel, in the Catalan version of the novel, he's Irish and he doesn't want to fight. He's a conscientious objector. Ireland having an interesting role in the First World War. They didn't really pick sides. In this one, he's not only running away from his life, he's running away from what he believes humanity's bad sides are. And I think ultimately, because he witnesses the full cyclical nature of human destruction by the end of the movie, spoiler, it's the fact that he can't get away from it however far away he runs. Yeah, I think if he was just there on an island to be a weather researcher, the allegorical parable that we've told wouldn't quite have the same resonance.
Est-ce qu'il y a encore d'autres questions? N'hésitez pas, c'est le moment. Zijn vragen in het publiek? Non? On va continuer alors. Well, a question about the novel then. It's always difficult to adapt a novel. So how many things did you change from the novel, except from the war question, because you already answered?
From the novel, we basically shrinked the last act. The film is actually quite... it's taking exactly the same structure as the novel, but the last act of the novel is taking more time to get in confidence with the baby toad. So basically what we did was to shrink that part with the baby toad to make it more cinematic, and even if we have the feeling of that literary feelings looking at the film, sometimes we have the feeling to read a book, get that kind of pacing, and but I wanted to shrink that part because in the book it's taking a lot of time, and I think it was more interesting that way.
I think the novel in Albert's book, he's much more interested in the anthropological divide between man and woman and the sexual politics of that. He looks very much at Gruner and Friend representing the evils of masculinity and the abuse that they inflict upon women and the sexual kind. Although we touch on that with their abuse or mutual complicit sex with the sea creature, we wanted to very clearly make a divide between Friend and Gruner. So rather than all men going down that same route of destruction, we wanted to look at a more cyclical nature of human destruction. That's the base of the tagline. And yeah, I think the great thing with adaptation is you have a responsibility to capture the essence of a piece, but not necessarily to capture every single narrative turn. But mostly because you can't. A book's normally too long. And the joy of reading a book is that you as a reader can know exactly what you think all the characters look like and exactly how they do it. So no one really wants to see exactly what they thought it was. What hopefully you can present them is to give them a response piece to their wonderful experience with that novel. And I think both the novel and our film work as beautiful counterpieces, as well as just, hey, it's that book on screen.
Yeah, but to keep on that idea, for the creature still, you have to give her a look. And that it's difficult because you have a description in the book. Then to put it on screen, on big screen, that's something different. So how did you approach it? Do you think it's very close to the description in the book, or did you put a little bit of yourself in creature?
I really respect, as the book is very well known in Spain and everywhere in the world for the people who wrote it. For me, it was really important to match absolutely the description of Aneris. So I showed the design to the author, Albert Sanchez-Piñol, and he was looking with me. At some point, he approved the design because it's coming from his mind, so I make some proposition. So I talk with biologists, scientific, about what's going to happen if human beings were amphibians. So we create leash there, not like in shape of water around the neck, but more into the pulmons. And then we put some valve like the dolphins. So basically, the toads are mammals. They are mammals amphibians. So we have the same kind of pattern as the dolphins and the penguins. If we had, so from what the scientists told us, so we adapt the design on this.
Except Friedrich's painting, did you have any other pictorial inspiration for the movie?
I don't think there's any sort of visual representations. I think that the Caspar David Friedrich one is very present, but as much by chance as anything else. I mean, everybody knows that picture, and then there's one shot that is a direct rip-off, really. But it was just the beauty of that place where we were. I think there are lots of cultural borrowings. I mean, the Keats that resonates through it was something that I brought to the table. And Xav, for some reason, left in the movie. I think everybody got to bring something sort of beautiful from the outside world. There's a lot of the novel in the script. We deliberately ripped the book apart, the English translation of the book apart, and put as much of Albert's translated words into it as we possibly could, which I think is really fun. Like, a lot of those first couple of weeks, you, me, and Ray would just sit there with the book, with the producers, and see if we could get more out of it. We really wanted the responsibility of doing it well.
And I think the most influence you can find in the film is literary influence, like Jules Verne, Stevenson, William Blake, that kind of things. Yeah, but not really other movies, or it was really coming from words more than image. And the only image was that Friedrich painting.
I think also Xav and I both have a great sort of film geekery back catalogue where, like, I kept on wanting to reference Journey to the Centre of the Earth all the way through. I love that film. And other than sort of singing bad Scottish shanty songs at occasional points, which we get a couple in there, like there's lots of sort of filmic nods, and we've sort of lost that sort of great adventure films sort of world. And I think hopefully that will start to come back.
And you're right. There is, I will say, my only cinematographic influence on the film was the Jules Verne adaptation or adventure movie from the 50s. That kind of, and all these movies, funny enough, were shot in Lanzarote. Like The Mysterious Island with Omar Sharif, who was shot there. So that will be the only cinematic influence we can really see in the film. But it gives that old-fashioned vintage feeling sometime in the movie.
I had more of a economical question. It's the movie is a co-production between France and Spain. Is it an obligation to do co-production if you are a French movie maker to do genre movies? Can't you do it in France only?
If I wanted to do that movie only in France, it will have been completely impossible. So I will have raised maybe €2 million to make it. and here we did it for 5 million plus a big industry co-production with El Ranchito, who did all the visual effects, and probably their work is considered like 3 million euro on the budget, so it's really a 8 million euro film, but in industry El Ranchito bring 3 million on the table.
I'd like to add one thing there with the co-production thing is a wonderful French-Spanish co-pro, French-Spanish, English, British co-pro in a year's time. I don't know how this kind of film would get made. I mean, I don't need a visa to be in this film. When Britain leaves the EU, I would need a work permit to be in the movie, and everything would be a lot more complicated and probably a lot more expensive. And that terrifies me, not just because I'll be a little out of work, but because I think that when we were filming it, the Brexit results came through, and I was fairly shocked that day, as I'm sure Zav can attest.
And David was shooting the underwater sequence, so he was really drawn.
It was horrible. I was surrounded by monsters. But it was that thing of standing there suddenly isolated from all your colleagues who had come from France and Spain, and from both sides, from the Spanish and the Catalan side of Spain. And it was, I'm very proud to be a European, and very sad that in some way that will probably have to be redefined. I don't know what world we'll be in a year's time, but it's a very sad thing.
Well, talking about the scavenger scene, that's amazing because it's really well done, but I wanted to know how much risk did you take with your actor to shoot that scene, that particular scene?
When I'd accepted the job, one of the cameramen on the show I was shooting at the time knew a man who was an expert underwater cameraman and had been approached about shooting that scene. And I was going, I mean, it's not a long scene, but I mean, it's going to take about a week, maybe 2 weeks to shoot that safely with the actors and the cast underwater. And I was there going, they're going to have to build an authentic 1914 diving bell. And I was like, that's going to be incredible. How is that going to work? How am I going to breathe? And then I turn up, I'm so excited, like a kid with a new toy box. And Zav says, so we're going to do it in a studio, and there's going to be no water, and you're going to be walking around on dust. And that's all we did. We just shot on dust.
And in one day.
One day. It's dry for wet. They started doing that technique, I think, on Pirates of the Caribbean. When they have all those people under the water, all the pirates marching. But yeah, you slow it down. You shoot in 60 frames a second, drop it back down to 25. All the dust flaps up from the air, and then it's the magical miracles of VFX and SFX. Man.
Yeah, so that brings to the next question. So you had the makeup, the real makeup for the creature, but you had to use some CGI or digital effects, of course.
Yeah, sure, because she still looked like human when she was under the makeup. So basically, in a realistic way, we spread her eyes of 5 or 6 centimeters. We spread the nose. We spread the nostril, we move the nostril digitally, we move the eyes digitally, we reduce the lips also, we change completely the mouth. She's thinner on screen than because the makeup give her a second skin, and she did already a lot of work to be fit for the character, but I wanted her like almost human, so it was very tricky to find the right shape. But thank you again from El Ranchito, because they did on every shot where she is, there is like 2 days of work on her only.
Yeah, and work on her, but she had to work a lot. I heard that for her it was really challenging because the character is very thin, and also the way she has to move.
So the thing is, she had two months of diet before the film and physical preparation. And she was eating almost nothing, only tofu during the shooting.
Yeah, basically, the dust that we used on the floor of the under the water scene was basically what it looked like she was eating on a daily basis.
God.
Yeah.
You're demanding.
No, but she did such an amazing work, because she don't say one word in the film, and I think we really feel and understand every bit she had during the movie. So that was really fantastic to see her evolve and give such a life to a character like this.
Xavier, you're going to. So you have 3 movies this year: Cold Skin, Crucifixion, and Budapest. How is it? Is it easy or difficult to switch from a project to another so quickly? Because 3 movies in a year. Of course, you didn't shoot all of them last year, but still, how is it to move from one thing to another so quickly?
Actually, it's in a way it's easy because you refresh yourself completely. When I'm doing the Crucifixion and the production kind of each movie, it's a different production, and but also in the typology of the film. So it's not only Crucifixion; it's a command from United States. So you have to do it like a good soldier. Even if you try to do your stuff, you have a producer above you, and you have to do exactly what they want. So it's a bit you cannot put your soul completely in it. On Cold Skin, it's a movie I carry from a long time. It's a passion project, so I can have a control total over the project, and we do exactly what we wanted when we had ideas with David. Nobody can tell us to stop. We do exactly the things we wanted. So that was a fantastic opportunity to work in that way. And for Budapest, I wanted to come back in France and do a French film, so and a comedy. So I was like, okay, let's do a comedy. It's going to be like holidays for me, and it's been quite tough to do because it was more tricky than I was expecting. But I'm really happy with the film, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a very trashy comedy and very naughty.
Est-ce qu'il y a encore des questions? N'hésitez pas, Zenervragen. On arrive tout doucement à la fin du Q&A. C'est maintenant ou jamais. Nooit. Nu on nooit. Peut-être une petite question pour continuer. Bon, là, vous avez parlé, you talk about the difference between the film on command that people ask you to do and the film that you do. And there's other subject in the cinema world that is very difficult to talk about. It's Netflix. I know you've been contacted by Netflix. So what is it your opinion about this new way of making films, actually?
To be honest, I think it's I'm completely devoted to cinema for sure, but I think it's a great opportunity they offer to filmmaker because basically you can produce today through Netflix all the independent movie you cannot do for almost 15 years because the studio in United States doesn't believe in independent cinema anymore. So what they do is they cancel a lot of films during 15 years to do just blockbusters, and basically all the authors were going to TV to do TV shows. But now with Netflix, they can express themselves with completely independent movie with such a good freedom. And for example, you have Alfonso Cuarón, who just did his last feature through Netflix, and he has the total control on it. Martin Scorsese, Fabrice Duvels, who did his movie and it gets released by Netflix. So it's really, for me, it's a great opportunity. And what happened in Cannes, I think, is a mistake. They should really accept to take Netflix movie because that is the future.
You just mentioned Alfonso Cuarón's movie Roma, but he shot it in 70 millimeters actually, and if Netflix is releasing it, it makes absolutely no sense, does it?
Yes, you're right. I think the joy of going to the cinema and seeing something on a big screen is what a film is designed to be. It's supposed to be bigger than life, it's supposed to be huge, and it's supposed to be wonderful. A few people recently have come back to me and said, yeah, but TVs are getting bigger. It's just like going to the cinema. And you go, yeah, they are getting bigger, but they're getting bigger at the cost of the sound. Like, your television will have rubbish sound on it, so you get your big picture, but you don't get your Dolby Atmos or whatever. I love the opportunity of online streaming to get content up. There is more work, there are more stories being told, and we will get to a point where bigger risks are being taken with said stories. But if that is at the loss of the cinema screen, of having a 70mm print shown massive in front of 1,400 people, then that's a real shame. I mean, I don't think we need to be in a world where one negates the other, but we need to explore where Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, all of the other web streamers go to, before we realize what we've lost. And much like our film, you only know what you've lost when it's gone. Yeah.
It's true that we talk about Netflix that do both TV show and very quality films, and you are an actor in TV shows, very good one, like Victoria, when you see the budget for this film, the decor, everything, and you also played in indie film like Truth or Dare, not easy to find budget for that kind of film. And how do you see the difference as an actor with the money you can have in very big TV show and the money you don't really have to make very good indie film?
I think with the increase of the amount of TV, is this working? Yeah. I think with the amount of TV that's being made, people are getting better at doing more with less. The amount of if you look at things like Game of Thrones, which is a huge budget TV show, but the development in the visual effects craft that has come through that has meant that you can do a lot more for less. That's great. I think it's a really big question. I think people are doing more for less in terms of money as well. I think the wages are going down in the industry, making it harder to survive, meaning people are taking jobs that maybe aren't as creatively viable. There is always a cost to cutting corners. Sometimes you see it in the content that you see on screen, and sometimes the audience will never know it's there, but you'll have people needing to be away from home more to do more films, to make more money to pay for their children, or whatever it is. I'm not saying we ever had it right and that there was a golden age of filmmaking and a golden age of TV making, and we're certainly in a wonderful golden age of content. I just would like people to realize that the human value of making something vastly outweighs the financial return that you could make. And the more producers and executive producers that realize that the joy of making something is equally as valid as it being good. The process is just as important as the product. And I think that is getting lost along the way, and not just in filmmaking, but in TV making. And yes, there you go.
That'll be the lesson of today, I think, for the cinema. Well, we're going to ask about the next project of you. I don't know if you talked about Budapest. Is there something coming with Netflix or something else about Budapest or about except
Budapest is going to be released by Warner Brothers in France. So basically, when they start to see the image, they take the film for the French release, and it's the first French film to get released after The Artist. So I was very proud of this when I know they will release the film in France, and I heard from the sales company we had a beautiful release around the world with the film. So I'm quite happy, and actually I'm developing comics based on a project I had on La Pérouse. Called Vanicoro, and the future of this will be to become a TV show for Netflix or another platform after the comics. So it's going to take over 3 years for the comics, and in the same time I will develop the TV show, and we'll see what's going to happen.
So there's already an agreement with Netflix then for this? Well, not yet.
Discussion.
Okay, discussion. And what about you? Still working on Victoria or something else coming?
I've just been doing theatre, so that isn't coming out soon. You've missed it. It finished. It happened in the moment. I've just accepted another job, which is film, another big international co-production thing in 4 different dialects, mostly Eastern ones. It's a book adaptation, so again, it's the same challenges of trying to capture the spirit. I can't tell you what it is. It's going to be another fun adventure. Yeah, I like picking projects that are out of the ordinary.
That's a nice choice.
Is there any last question in the audience? Oh, yeah.
Voilà, on a une question là-bas. Est-ce que le micro est encore quelque part? Là, oui. Juste à côté de toi. À côté de toi. Hop, voilà.
Hi. First, I enjoyed the movie very much, and I have a small question which maybe also fits for the end of the Q&A. At the end of the all the text passing by in the end of the movie, you thank a lot of people, like among others Stellan Skarsgård, the Danish actor,
Sorry, can you repeat?
On n'entend pas bien la question. Peut-être rapprochez-vous, peut-être qu'on entendra mieux.
Okay. Okay. In the end of the movie, you have like the titles, and you thank a lot of people, like Stellan Skarsgård, the Danish actor. Can you give some examples of the contributions they did, like Stellan? I know he's been like in a movie about a youth prison on an island. Maybe he gave you some inspiration for your role?
No, Stellan was attached at the beginning of the film. When we start developing the film, he was attached to play Gruner 5 years ago. So I had a few discussions with him about the character, and I implement in the script some of the discussion I had with Stellan because he had a good vision for the character. And then he was doing Marvel films, so he was not available anymore to make it. And we go to Ray.
Une autre question? Andere vraag in het publiek? Andere vraag? Nee? Encore une question? Non? Alors nous allons terminer le Q&A. We're going to end this Q&A with the last question I asked all the guests this year. You both came twice at least at the BIF. Twice, that's the second time for you. And I think you came with the Divide, and that's the second time you come. The third time, yeah. So I would like you to describe this festival in 3 words.
Anarchic, beerful, and hedonistic.
I will say love, love, love.
Thank you both of us for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much. If you want any signature or picture, who knows, you can do it now. Merci.